Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to be starting from the Mishnah on Chav Tes on the bottom of Chav Aleph, and the Mishnah is going to discuss, and the Gemara is going to discuss the different times that we lay in different parashas. Okay, we're going to hopefully go to Laman Aleph on top and call it a night. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechol Yes B'Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh Adar falls on Shabbos. Kaiden Parashas Shkalim Kaiden Shechol Yes B'Shabbos. Kaiden Parashas Shkalim that you lane Parshas Shkalim on that Shabbos. Chalis b'Seicha Shabbos, Makdim and l'Shavar. So if a Shchodesh falls out on Shabbos itself, then you lane on that Shabbos Parshas Shkalim. Chalis b'Seicha Shabbos, if you lane on, if the Shchodesh falls out on any other day of the week, then Makdim and l'Shavar, you go previous. In other words, the last Shabbos in Shvat, you'll lane Parshas Shkalim. Umavsikin l'Shabbos acharis, and then you take a break. In other words, the first Shabbos and other, you do not lane any of the Dalit Parshas, but Shnia Zachar, the next Parsha, the next week, the second Shabbos of Adar, you lay in Parsha Zachar, but Shishas Para, Aduma, B'Revi'is HaChadosh Zelechem, that's right before Chodesh Nisan, U'Bechamishes, Chayzrin, the Kasidron, you continue with the regular Seder of the Parshas of the Shavua. Kol Ma'asikin, this is nothing related to the Dalit Parshas anymore, but this is just Stam, B'Rosh Chadashim, B'Chanukah, B'Purim, B'Tanis, B'Mamadis, B'Yom Kippurim. We wait. These lanings that we just mentioned interrupt the regular kriya. It's talking about. I think during the week, not on Shabbos. Yeah. So for any of these things, for Chodesh Chanukah, Purim, Tainus Ubamadas, or Yom Kippur, I'm not sure Yom Kippur is the end of that, but it is you interrupt the regular scheduled programming. And so some of them for Shabbos we also do. That's what's like interesting because like we're not mafsik Shabbos for Rosh Chodesh or Chanukah, but for Yom Kippur we are. So it's interesting. Okay, Tan Hasan. The Eker Baba Mishmina says Shkalim. This is the Mishnah we had already. We wrote this down earlier. That the Echad, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar, they make a hakraza on the Shkalim. V'al Haklayim. Bishleim al Haklayim. This man Zeriel. Bishleim that the client they have to make hachraz because it's the Zman Zriya. Now Taisus points out it's not Zman Zriya Mamish, it's just the Zman that the end of Zman Zriya where things start to come out a little bit, and you could notice what took place, what took hold that was client, and you can uproot it. Ella ala shkalim, this is talking about client that was by mistake. That happened in the Mail, or that a guy did it, but if it happens on your field, you still have to get rid of it. But what's the purpose, and how do we know? Why do we have shkalim? Why do we make shkalim? Daf kanada Amar Tavi Amar Yeshid Amar Kra says is Chodesh b'Chadshay, and we learn out Amar Taira Chadesh Havi Carbon Betruma Chadasha. This that you're bringing a new karbanas in the new Chodesh, the new year of Chodesh Nisan. Then you have to start bringing the new karbanas. So because v'kivin the benisin ba'i akruvim b'trum chadash. Because from Rosh Chodesh Nisan and on, we're going to start using the new batch of coins to purchase all the carbon tziburim, the karbanas from the tzibur. Kadmin v'karin b'echad b'adar ki hechid the laisu shkalim l'mikdash. That you give them a month's notice that they should bring the shkalim to the mikdash. It takes time to get all the money together, and already our for Chodesh Nisan already we have to bring a carbon tamid and a carbon musaf from the communal funds. We need to have the money on hand, not checking the mail. So we want to bring a raya. Come on, like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Why Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Ha'amar shtei Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, we're going to see in a second, that he says you only should need 2 weeks. The Tanya Shayalim behilchas haPesach kaidim lePesach shleishim yom. We learned in the Brayso, the Tanakh says that you should dash Hilchos Pesach Shleishim Yom Kadmon L'Chag, which is what we know. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Aimer Shtei Shabbos says you only need 2 weeks. So the Gemara is assuming that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would also hold that L'Gabe Shkol we only need 2 weeks heads up, just like he holds only 2 weeks before the Chag you have to start dashing. So too, I would assume that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's opinion follows through over here that by Shkol I also only need 2 weeks heads up. So the Gemara no, I feel that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. In the 15th of the month, Shushan Param. The tables are set up in the Medina throughout the land. And on the 25th day, they go to the base. They go to the Mikdash. And because we need 2 weeks from the Shulchan, which is on the 15th, 2 weeks of the Shulchan, so that would say that's already, we want it to be by Rosh Chodesh Adar, we wanted to make a Achraza. So you have his time frame of 2 weeks would make sense because it's going to be 2 weeks from the tables, which is on the 15th, not on the 30th, when it actually has to already be in the Mikdash. Now, just an interesting ha'ara, I didn't have it fully fleshed out, but these two ideas of the Shkolim and the Klayim, that they're both on they're both on Rosh Chodesh. Obviously, the Gemara explained two different ideas of why they have to be there, but we know that there's no such thing as happenstance and there's no such thing as coincidence, and just happens to be like that. It's in Yiddishkeit, it's in anything, but Befrat and Halacha, which is more masugel for hadracha and to learn from. The idea of these are really opposing ideas. The Maxis HaShekel is the Indian of Aktos, that every single person is a half a coin, and everyone comes together to purchase the carbon tamidim. It's an Indian of Aktos, and Klayim is an Indian of Pirud, that this thing doesn't belong with this thing, this belongs with this thing, and you could say that even within the framework of Akdos, you also have to be wary of Klayim. Just because there's an Indian of Akdos doesn't mean that you still have to chavazech with every single person that you meet. And there's certain things that are Klayim that you don't belong with, and it's okay to not hang around certain people. Not everything is a sheir Akdos, and that's I think I heard from a Riwaya he started talking about it. These two ideas, they come together to show that dichotomy. So my parsha is Shkolim. So what's this parsha Shkolim? So we figured out when we say it and why we say it, but what is it? Rav Amar Tzavos Bnei Yisrael Marta Aleim as Karbani Lachmi. In Parshas Tzav, it brings down the parsha of Carbon Taida, and he says that that's what it means when it says Parsha Shkolim. Shmuel Amar Kisisa, what we takalein Kisisa of the actual Shkolim. Bishlam Amanda Amar Kisisa, very nice according to Shmuel, it makes sense. Hainu Dekari Le Parsha Shkolim. Nechsev Bashkolim, it references Shkolim, and it's talking about we need the Shkolim for the business of the show. It's very simple why we lane Kisisa, and that is considered Parsha Shkolim. According to Rab, it says it's talking about the carbon taida, the Parshat Tzav. There's the same thing about Shkolim here, that I should read it from Parshat Shkolim, that I should read it at a time when I'm trying to remind the Jews of Shkolim. And if they were in time of Mai Kedab Tavi, we had Rav Tavi earlier on the page, second line from the top. Rav Tavi is the one who said that the reason why we lane Shkolim here is because we're the new lishka of the new fund for the new year to do the carbon the communal karbanis. So that is referenced by the carbon tamid. So and now the Gemara flips on and said, now I understand very nice why it says why he's showing Parshas Tzav, because it says the carbon tamidim, which is the reason why we have the shkam. Does it bring down a karbanis at all? And not only that, but shkam la'adanim ksivi. This shkam that you're bringing me as a raya that we should say is not talking about the shkalim that is collected for the communal karbanis. It's talking about for the adanim, for the original. But the original building of the Mishkan that had nothing to do with the communal kabbanis per se. And the Gemara, yes, for the Tani Rabbi Yosef, Shalish Truma saying in that parsha of Shkolim it says the word Truma 3 times, and we learn out Shemazbeach, Mizbeach, V'Shal Adana, Adana, V'Shal B'Dekabayis. We learn out all three things, references all three collections, and that would reference our collection too as well of the carbon tamim and the carbon siver. Bishlam Amar Kisisa, very nice according to Bishlam Amar Kisisa. Hainu Deshani Hai Roish Chaydish Misharish Chadashim. So in our Mishnah it says the if Rish Chaydish other falls out on if Rish Chaydish other falls out on Shabbos, then we lay Parsha Shkolim on Shabbos. And according to the Manda Amar that says it's going to be Parsha Shkolim like Kisisa, so then it's going to be different. Hai Roish Chaydish Misharish Chadashim. Man the Amar Tzav is Karbani, Tzav is Karbani, Maishani. We lean Tzav is Karbani every single Rosh Chodesh. So what's going to be the nafkamina? How are you going to know? This is not going to be a real call to action to go get shkol every single Shabbos, every single Rosh Chodesh we learn this. Every single. If it falls out of any other Shabbos, we would lane 6 of the Parshas of Hashavua and 1 of Rosh Chodesh. But now that it falls out, that Rosh Chodesh other falls out on Shabbos, and we have the mitzvah of Shkolim, Kula Rosh Chodesh, we're gonna lane all 7 aliyahs in the sugya of Rosh Chodesh and in Tzah. So it's going to be anyone who's paying attention is going to realize that something's different, and they're going to remember, it's the week of Shkalim. Let's start getting our money together and send it up to Beis Hamikdash. Let's say the Parashas Uchayzah, when the Mishnah says, let's say the Parashas in the fifth week, where let's say the Parashas Uchayzah that the Mishnah means that the whole parsha is restored. In other words, that the hefsek that we make for the 4 parshas is the complete parsha takeover. According to Rambam, it says you don't lane the whole parsha. You only lane only the mafter. Only mafter gets switched up. Then what are you going to say again? Rav is saying that my answer, the reason how you're going to know that parsha shkalim is special is because you're going to lane the whole parsha shkalim, as opposed to every other v'shchaydish. But according to Rambam, that you don't do that, then how are you going to know the difference? It looks like the same as every other v'shchaydish. The Gemara. My shani, everything was shani. The either shechadashim kiru karu shita v'anyana diyana v'chad b'Rosh Chodesh. Every other Rosh Chodesh gets 6 and 1. 6 for Pashas Shvua and 1 for Rosh Chodesh. But this week karu tlasa b'anyana, I'm going to lay only 3 b'anyana diyana v'arba karu b'Rosh Chodesh. But b'Rosh Chodesh, I'm still going to lay 4. In other words, I guess it still works with the manam that says them after, because you're not really losing the parsha. The parsha of the week is still being read. You're going to cram the whole parsha Hashavua into 3 aliyahs, and then you're going to have 4 additional aliyahs of Rosh Chodesh. Meisef Rosh Chodesh Adash Chaliyas b'Shabbos Chaim Parsha Shkalim Maftirin b'Yahida Hakayim. So very nice. So it says pretty straightforward that you lane Parshas Shkalim. Oh no, I'm sorry. You lane Parshas Shkalim, whatever that is, we don't know. Or again, it's machlekes, so each mandama can learn it the way they're learning it. The maftir of Yada Kayin goes through a lot of different types of donations and pledges to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mishkan. Very nice, according to Shmuel, that says it's Parshas Shkalim that we know. It brings down specifically a person redeeming himself with kesef, and it brings down the Indian of kesef and Shkalim. According to Rambam, it says it's the reading of a Shchaydish. Midami, what Shaykhis does the parsha of all the Nadavas have to do with the parsha of Rosh Chodesh? And the Gemara Dami Kidav Tavi. Same answer again, that because the parsha of Rosh Chodesh has to do with the carbon tamim, which is the reason why we have the shkalim. So it makes sense to add a haftarah has to do with shkalim because it's hainu half the same sugya. You may say chali is parsha smuchila if shkalim falls out to be next to the parsha. The chali is parsha smuchila. So if it falls out on a parsha that's next to it, for example, if it falls out a week before or a week after parsha, that parsha of itself, again, according to Shmuel would be Chisisa, according to Rab would be Tzab. So if Tzab falls out next to Vayikra or Shmini, right, Vayikra Shmini, and according to Shmuel, if it falls out either by after Tzab or Pekude, V'Yaakov, I'm sorry, Bein Melchna, Bein Melchna, Karna said V'Kaifan, I said, you lane it and you double it. So the it makes sense that you say that you're going to double it, which means you're going to land it 2 weeks in a row, because it's shaykh to fall out in that time. Kisisa falls out around Parsha Shkalim falls out around Kisisa, so it's possible that it falls out on Tetzav. It's possible it falls out on Pekude. Element on Tetzav is Karbani. According to Rambam, that it's Tzav Rab Mi Misli Ahu Zimna. How could Parsha Shkalim fall out? Tzav is in Vayikra, it's in the middle of the summer. And it does make sense of the Ma'arav, the Masikla Deraisa, Betlasin Shnin, Betlashnin, in Ma'arava, where they don't space out, they don't divide the Torah among with 12 months, with 1 year, like we do it. They do it over 3 years. So then it can come out, whatever cycle, however it ends up, Tzav can end up in any time of the year, and it's Negea, according to Rab, also. The Martani can say the Shmuel learned to be fair, a Bryce like Shmuel, V'Shchaydish Adash Chaliyas V'Shabbos Karn Kisisa Umaftirin B'Hayada HaKayin. So we see a Bryce exactly like Shmuel, and Kachava. That's how we Firzach today we lane Pasha Shkalim, we lane Kisisa. Exactly. Right. If Shchadish other falls out on Shabbos, you might see in Shalish Tairais, we take out 3 Sifat Torah, Kayin Behen, Echad Ben Yana Shal Yain. 1, the regular Kriya of the day, Echad B'Shalish Chadish, and 1 for Rosh Chadish, Echad B'Kisisa, and 1 for Pasha Shkalim. Ram Rav Yitzchak another halacha, Ram Yitzchak Nafcha, Rosh Chadish Tevish Achalias B'Shabbos, Mevi in Shalish Tairais, we take out 3 Sifat Torah, the Kayin Behen, Echad Ben Yana Shal Yain. The regular Pasha Shavuot, Echad Rosh Chadish, and 1 for Rosh Chadish, Echad B'Chanukah, and 1 for Chanukah. Which is what we know. These are the 2 times a year that it's shayach to have 3 Sifat Torah. The tzricha, we need both members. Why? If it would just say by Tevis, only it's dafka by Tevis, I'm sorry. Then you need both. If I would just say by Tevis, I would say, okay, so maybe he holds a grav, which means that Shkalim and Rosh Chodesh is the same kriyas. Even if you want to say you lane it twice, whatever you're going to do differently, you only need 2 Sifat Torah. Avo bahach krav sirle. But for the Gemara, I could have just said Rosh Chodesh other, and I would know Megillah Teves, because Teves is no tzad to say that there's one kriya for both Rosh Chodesh and for Chanukah. Right? That's no one says that. So I could just say the halacha by other, and I would know the halacha of Tevet. And the Gemara, he said 1, and we split into 2. In other words, we derived the second member, was just us deriving the halacha, and Enochanami only said it by other, and we understood Tevet. Exactly. The Gemara right there. Itmar Rishchaydish Tevet Shachal Yitzbechal Amar Yitzchak Nafcha. The Adam Nafcha here. Karu plus of Rishchaydish V'chad V'chanukah. You lane 3. So I'm sorry. Itmar. If Rosh Chodesh falls out on a regular during the week, not in Shabbos, Amar Rav Yitzchak. Rosh Chodesh falls out not on Shabbos. Amar Rav Yitzchak. You lane 3 aliyahs. So we lane 4 aliyahs total because it's Rosh Chodesh. So the first 2 are going to be for Rosh Chodesh, and the last one's going to be for Chanukah. But Avdimi, the Minchefa Amar, no, we learn Karu plus of Chanukah. We do 3 for Chanukah, V'chad v'Revi, V'chad v'Rosh Chodesh, and the 4th one for Rosh Chodesh. Amar Mani Kavasei Rav Yitzchak Nafcha Mistaba. It's more Mistaba to say that we do 3 for Rosh Chodesh and 1 for Chanukah. Why? The Tad V'Shei and the Tad Kaidim. We should first lane what is more common, and we have more Rosh Chodesh in a year. We have at least 12 days Rosh Chodesh, usually 16, 18, right? I think every other one is a Malay. So you have 2 days Rosh Chodesh, every other one. So you have, let's say, minimum 12, let's say upwards of 18, and you can have only 8 days of Chanukah. I see Rav Dimi's sad more because he says, Rosh Chodesh is the one who's guarding the 4th, so he should have the 4th. So you should lane the 4th aliyah, should be Rosh Chodesh. My Havala. So Maisa, what do we do? Rav Yosef Amar, you don't pay attention to Rosh Chodesh, and you don't pay attention to Chanukah. Again, we're talking about what's the ikar. We're not laning Rosh Chodesh. No one says when it says Rosh Chodesh, it doesn't say we don't lane Rosh Chodesh at all. It's just that Chanukah is the ikar, and he says, and Rabbi says Rosh Chodesh is ikar. Hilchasa and Chanukah Rosh Chodesh ikar is Rosh Chodesh, and we lane 3 aliyahs for Rosh Chodesh, and the 4th one would be for Chanukah. Itma chaliyas be'at. If Shkalim falls out without the tzava, Amar Yitzchak Nafcha Karushita. If it falls out on Pash at the tzava, Karushita, but Mat tzava at Kisisa. So the problem is that at the tzava is the Pash before Kisisa. So what do you do? How do you play this? So again, Chaliyas be'at tzava. If Pash Shkalim falls out on the tzava, Amar Yitzchak Nafcha Karushita at the tzava. You lane 6 aliyahs in Tetzava ad Kisisa, so you lane the whole parsha in 6 aliyahs. V'chad Kisisa ad Vasisa, and the 7th aliyah you're going to lane the beginning of Kisisa. I'm going to buy if you're going to do that. This is where it ends. It's supposed to end over there. It's not nicker that you're laning it on its own. It just maybe that's like they just continue to again. They don't have all these fancy stops and like all these page setups. Could be a lot of them were listening about Peh. They didn't even realize. You lane you lane 6 from the Parshas Tetzaveh. V'cha tani v'kari mikisisa ad v'asisa, and you lane 1. V'cha tani v'kari mikisisa, and the six again. What's the coming over here? So you lane straight 6, including you include the first aliyah of kisisa, and then the first one goes back to the beginning of kisisa and lanes again. And then that's much more nicker that you're doing something different. If it falls out to be a parsha that's next to it, you lane it and then you repeat it. Now, according to Abaya, makes sense because you see the way he repeated it. According to Nafka, that says that you lane straight, and the 7th aliyah is the kisisa. Where's the doubling? Does it make sense according to Abaya? Very nice. You could say that the way he just described it, that you lane straight into kisisa and then you double up kisisa. But if it falls out on Vayakel, how do you have an Indian according to Abaya? You would never do this. There's no Indian of kafila. So obviously the member that you're saying doesn't work according to Abaya either. So it has to mean something else. You're going to lane it twice. You lane it 1 week, you lane it another week again, which that applies side to side. That applies whether it's before, which means you lane it last week, and then you lane it again this week, or you lane it this week and then again next week. I'll explain it the same way. Let's say Pasha Shkalim falls out on Kisisa. What do you do? In other words, how are you going to make it nicker that you're doing something special for Pasha Shkalim? You lane the whole Pasha of Kisisa in 6. Then you go back to the first aliyah and you do it again, the whole beginning. I'm sorry. It says you start V'asisa, you skip the first aliyah. You start in middle by V'asisa, which is with the end of Pasha Shkalim, and you lane till the end of the Pasha, and then you go back for the last aliyah, you go back to the head. Now you're going to look stuff like all mixed up. You lane from the beginning to Vayakov, and now you go back, and the guy lanes Kisisa ad Vasisa again. And like I said, Chali is with Kisisa Atzma, Karin Isai, the Kaifan Isai, and you lane it, and you lane the first aliyah again. Okay, we're going to stop here, and Bez Hashem, we're going to do a share tomorrow, and maybe even finish by Matzah Shabbos. That is the goal.